Okay.
Nope, 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 yep, nope, yep.
Nope, nope, nope. Hi, welcome to Curiously Factual with a very curious stoner.
And a factual engineer.
Alright, so last week we had an episode called Black Mirror and currently trying to upload it.
41%, baby!
Oh yeah, kind of. In this episode, I am going to be doing the majority of the talking this time, and I'm going to be talking about the whole thing, my favorite show, Midnight Gospel. And that show, in and of itself, is weird as hell, but you learn and can take away so many things, and I just wanted to talk about it with you, just to see your take on it, to see how you think about it, even though you haven't seen it.
Yeah, I have not seen it. I saw the first episode, like, a long time ago. Yeah.
Like more than 6 months ago.
Yeah. Oh, wait, God, it was
it was the beginning of this year, because it came out this year. It came out this year.
Oh, I don't know when I watched it, but I watched one episode, and then, it's a cartoon. It's not really, it's hard for me to get into it, you know, but
it's hard to get into even if you like cartoons, because there's so much shit going on.
It's a lot. It's just a lot for my brain to handle or try to process. But then I did watch the last episode as well.
Yes.
We watched that together.
Just now. Just so she can get a taste of what it's like. And also that one's a lot easier to follow. And it's sad as hell.
I highly recommend watching that.
Even if you haven't seen anything, no, I highly suggest watching the whole show because I just love it.
I highly recommend at least watching the last episode.
Yeah, if you don't like cartoons like this one.
But I'm ready. I'm ready for my mind to be blown. I'm ready to be transported into another world.
All right, and this is just full of a fuckload of notes, so we're gonna see how I do. All right, so the base of the show, there's a human named Clancy Gilmore. He borrowed money from his sister to move away from wherever they lived. We don't really know what that is. They never mention it. And he wanted to use that money to buy a plot of land for his trailer and buy a used universe simulator to interview all those lives and all those people that are inside this universe simulator. And they have amazing stories, amazing things to tell you. And that's the whole point of the show, is just for him to do that. It's just for him to figure out anything, really. He can ask them anything. And so every morning he listens to this radio channel, and that person called himself the Pyro Moth. I'm not really sure if that's just a name or if it's supposed to mean something.
Pyro means fire. Moth is a moth.
Fire moth.
It's a fire moth.
He goes, it's the Pyro Moth, keeping it hot in your heart. I don't know, hot for the rhythm and cool in your heart, some shit like that. That's what he says. It's so weird.
He would say something like that.
That's what he said. I actually remember a lot of script from this show. I'm okay with this. I'm thinking, he also, every time he starts off that channel in the morning in the radio, he goes, "Good morning, simulation farmers." That is where it gets me to think, like, okay, there's obviously a lot more people using simulators, which later on that gets described into the show. And it's just a channel that people use that for. I mean, anyone that, does that, whatever. Let's see. So, I was thinking many people use these machines to escape their current reality or problems, if not being able to control their said reality. So they use the simulators for that as well. So they can control whatever Earth or universe they decide to go to. They can control whatever in any way because they are in it.
So are you saying that in this world, this simulator is like everyone has one?
It's, almost like in the last episode, it's almost weird if you don't.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So everyone has these, and they go into this. Is it random where it spits you out?
It's actually not random. So that I don't even read this part. So it's very interesting because the way episode 1 actually starts, it's called Taste of King, featuring Drew Pinsky, actually a real person. You can look him up if you want, but I have his thing here. Okay. You can look at what he looks like. David Drew Pinsky, commonly known as Dr. Drew Pinsky, is an American media personality and internist addiction to medicine specialist. He hosted a radio talk show called Loveline from 1984 and ended in 2016. He kept that radio show for hella long, helping people with addictions to medicine, addictions to Valium, addictions to codeine, all that stuff. And basically, this episode starts, and this is how you see how he gets to these Earths. Episode 1 starts, Clancy's looking for a simulated Earth to do one of his first podcasts for this, for his space cast, putting it out into space. He chooses Earth 19243, whatever, it's like a whole thing. And on this screen, you see a whole ton of Earths, and you can just scroll past. Some have red X's, some don't. And the red X's mean, due to an easily avoidable operator error, this version has been destroyed, deleting Earth. So hearing that, I was just like, okay.
Well, shit, why don't we just get into simulation theory at this point?
That's what I'm saying. That's when I was writing all of this down, I was like, this is so much for the simulation.
Oh, we are setting up the simulation podcast?
Hard. Oof. So hard. And hearing that just made my mind go wild, and I was like, okay, this show's insane. The computer actually has a personality. He's a little sassy. He's kind of funny. And he calls Clancy...
sassy?
Really? Sassy. He goes, come on. He goes, no, you come on. You come on. Time of Clobexia. He goes, what the fuck's a Clobexia? He goes, I don't know. I just made it up. He goes, sounds cool. Send me in. So, yeah. Let me see. Yeah, he finally chooses a person in this said Earth. I don't know why he chooses one in particular, because the computer says, due to another operator error, they are undergoing a zombie apocalypse. And the Earth is basically already dying. But he wants to go and interview Glasses Man, which is Drew Pinsky. And I wrote a lot on this episode because of what they talk about. Very much believe in it.
Fun fact, he's 6 feet tall. Exactly.
Damn. 6 feet tall?
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there.
I didn't know that. How old is he?
He is 62.
Damn.
He's 62 years old.
Really interviewed a lot of 60-year-olds in his show.
Really?
Yeah.
That's the age, man.
Choose the character. Continues. Okay, yeah. So after he chooses a character, he sticks his head into this ass of a simulator because it looks like cheeks.
No, it looks like a pussy, dude.
It does look like a pussy.
It looks like a vagina.
A fat mound. Yikes. So he gets sent to this simulated Earth, and which again is undergoing a zombie apocalypse. But how it's shown is he sticks his head in. He chooses a character, which is like a beach body, like if you're choosing for a video game, and it shows when he's in the simulator. It shows the simulated world. He has a little yellow house computer, like a little computer house, and a little gun shooting him to the Earth, and it's going out through. Like, as he's being sent to this Earth, you see so many different versions of Earth in the background. Like, a ton of different ones. And I'm just like, whoa, that looks so cool. Like, triangle Earths and shit like that. Things that you really didn't think would be a thought. Right. I never thought of that. I never thought of another shaped Earth. Like, what the fuck is that?
Well, I mean, because there are no other shaped planets, you know what I mean? Like,
there's
planet ends up being...
round.
Spherical.
Okay, engineer. So the topic so what I'm going to do is basically describe the main topics in the episode and just kind of talk into them, into the nitty gritty, see how you think of them, your thoughts on them. Mm-hmm. So the topic that's spoken in this episode is drugs. Clancy mentions how medical marijuana has proven to cause less death around the world, like 30% less death, and then David cuts him off and agrees and says, look, it's actually more. And if recreational pot was like a thing, a lot more accepted, opiate use goes way, way down. Way, way down. Mm-hmm. And statistics actually prove this. and he continues to believe pot is the answer for some chronic pain, and he'd rather see people on pot than any sort of drug that they get from the doctor.
I mean, I'd rather see people on pot than any drug they get from the doctor.
Exactly.
It's just a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
Completely. Weed is just different.
It is, well, I mean, I don't want to sound like the typical stoner, but weed's from the earth. It's from Gaia. She's offering us something that makes us feel good. Like, let's see here. Okay, so he mentions how there's the pill combo that doctors give patients when, example A is a huge example of my mom. She has a ton of medical problems, and it takes over like 15 pills a day, and she has to put them up in a pile in her hand and take them, because she's an old recovering breast cancer survivor, went through many back surgeries, has many, many problems, and unfortunately the pharmaceutical companies are failing my mom severely. They're just throwing her from doctor to doctor, and I severely hate that. So she finally decided to try pot. And the first hit she ever took of weed ever, you see everything in her body just let go and relax. And she finally, just for a little bit, can make her pain go away. And it makes her feel better. And this was back when I was 17. I'm 22 now, and she's a heavy pot user, but obviously for medical reasons she needs it. And that's why I very much hate when people try to force anyone on medication.
Yeah.
At all.
Medication, I'm reading an article right now. It says that 130 Americans every single day die from opioid use.
Yep.
The opioid epidemic. It's ridiculous. And this came out in 2019, so pre-COVID days, but...
Yep.
You know,
that's actually when they recorded the show, so they were giving their statistics kind of around this time.
130 Americans every single day.
Mm-hmm. I think he mentions that actually in the episode. I shouldn't write that one down. So he just mentions how there's benzos, opioids,
yeah.
And then another thing known as the sleeping drug, Xanax, anything kind of that helps you sleep. He goes, and this is me quoting him, A kills, and when patients die of drug use, that's why. When a patient dies of drug use, it is literally the majority is the reason why. Pills.
Yeah.
Is what you said. Stated right there. And B perpetuates their pain, and they are disabled by it or become extremely dependable. Now, everyone knows if you are taking anything, you will be you will have a less immune to it. Like you're not as immune to it.
Your tolerance will go up. It becomes less effective over time.
Exactly. But and their answer to that is upping the dose.
Yeah, just have more.
Here. God.
Oh, that's not working? More.
Here's more. Here's another one that's exactly the same. They'll make you feel worse.
Feel like DJ Khaled. Another one.
Oh, God. Another one. So then Clancy continues to tell I call him David. His name's Drew. I wrote David for some reason.
I think you've been saying.
Oh, his name is David Drew Pinsky. Okay, that's why. Right?
Okay.
Yeah, I think. I don't know. You looked him up.
I did. It was a while ago.
So he basically lets him know, like, there was a party that I went to, and I was drunk, and for some reason, as I was going home, I bought benzos. And he goes, and Drew goes, "Are you serious? Like, that is the stupidest thing anyone could do, to offer someone who's already drinking a pill." He goes, "I'm not blaming you. You just thought you could take it and handle it."
From what I remember in that episode, they called it something, too. It was that specific combination. It was alcohol and benzos.
Death combo.
It was just the death combo?
Yeah, they just called it the death combo.
That scared the crap out of me.
Yes.
I will say that.
Yes.
Because he describes it.
Exactly. There, he says, exactly. And he goes, "There is no good or bad drug out there. There is this chemical that's neither good or bad. It just exists. And we either created it or it exists by nature. And then it's the relationship humans have to the substance that is the issue." And I, again, wholeheartedly believe in that. You know, people can say they're addicted to something. It's just their personal relationship to that drug, to said drug, to that feeling that they get from that said drug.
Yes, but by that statement, do you mean that people can't be actually addicted?
Dependable.
So you're saying that addiction doesn't exist? Is that what you're...
I think so.
Is that what you're saying?
I think so. I know.
I very much disagree with you, my guy.
Alright.
I do believe that addiction absolutely exists. Beyond dependency. I think that it depends on what you're using and what it is.
And what,
but the chemicals do change in your brain to where you are not just dependent, you are addicted.
Wouldn't it just be considered a chemical imbalance then, in a way?
I mean, it is a chemical imbalance, right?
Is that what it's considered now? To
I mean, addiction is a chemical imbalance. That's drugs. What they do is they alter your chemicals.
Yeah.
You know, they alter hormones. They alter whatever they're attacking. They change chemicals, and so over time, they'll change the chemicals in your brain. And different drugs have different effects, and there is you can be addicted. Addiction is real. It's not just dependency. Dependency is a part of addiction.
Okay, then I'm going to throw in randomly, what about cavemen?
What about cavemen?
What could they be addicted to?
Anything. People can be addicted to food. They could be addicted to sex. They could be addicted to all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I'm addicted to nicotine.
Mm-hmm.
I am. I am dependent on it. You will always have dependency with addiction. Always.
Dependency?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So you will always have dependency when you have addiction, but you will not always have addiction when you have dependency. Does that make sense? You can be dependent on weed, and you can be dependent on food.
Yeah.
Right? You can be dependent on sex, but that doesn't mean you're addicted. But if you are addicted, you do have dependency with it.
You can't stop it either. In a way.
Yeah.
You can't stop it.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Good. I'm liking this already. Getting me excited. Here's an example for drugs are neither good or bad. So, if you're going into a severe surgery and you need Valium and you're coming out of surgery and you need a pain pill for that, for said surgery, Valium, really good. But if you are drinking at a party, Valium is really fucking bad and you shouldn't do it. So it's severely the circumstances. And aspiration pneumonia is how a lot of people die when drinking and taking pills. So that is the process that he described that scared the shit out of you.
Yeah.
You know, you choke on your throw up and you die. All the bacteria from your mouth goes into your lungs that doesn't belong, and you choke and die within 30 to an hour. Just like that. In your sleep. Without even knowing. Clancy, after that, mentions how they're just so evil, and he goes, well, no, it's not the chemical that's evil, it's not the pill, it's the situation. Yeah. And the biology of certain people decide to take them while drinking. That is evil. That is the said evil term, is people who decide to take pills while drinking. And I stupidly can admit to doing that once. Don't do it. It wasn't even for something bad. It was a Xanax. It was a low Xanax, and I was drinking. And there's parts of that night where I do not remember. And it's not because I drank a lot. It's because of the Xanax.
Mm-hmm.
And
the mixture.
Because
Xanax is very, very helpful, like you were saying, no good or bad. Xanax is very, very helpful, does very good things to people who are anxious, not drinking, just you have a lot of anxiety, you're prescribed. Xanax is very, very helpful. But doing it to get high while you're drinking, that's a different story.
Exactly. And I unfortunately know someone who takes a lot of pills, no matter what they are, benzos, perks, opioid, anything, whatever, how the fuck you say it. He takes whatever he can under the damn sun and sleeps from 6 a.m. till 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And then there he goes again.
Dangerous
as hell. Alright. So yeah, it's just, I don't understand how, well, not that I don't understand, it's just that I find it very interesting and sort of crazy that people can just depend so much on the pharmaceutical company. I understand you want to listen to your doctors. What do you see that's changed in your life?
Well, but with addiction, that doesn't matter anymore. That doesn't matter anymore.
You're right.
You know, you and I both know from personal experience with not drugs, but people, like that.
Many people.
Yeah, that, you know, let's just say, for example, you know, people in relationships, you know, things that they know matter, things like, if you're addicted to something, then
person, a place,
yeah, whatever, then you know that you are addicted. You have somewhat of a awareness. It just doesn't matter anymore. Like, that's all that matters to you. So everything that did just doesn't anymore, and it's not about you not wanting to not care, because you want to care, but you don't anymore. You know, that's why. Like, yeah, you know, doctors prescribe medication, but it reaches a point where it changes your brain so much that that's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Insane. Here's another thing I actually wanted you to look up.
Yes.
I put fact ? Because this is what was said in the show. Our founding fathers talked about pumping mushrooms into horrible world leaders and said maybe they would be a lot more happy and get insight, or he can become a darker person. We never know, because that's obviously never happened. I mean, we don't know, actually. Never mind. Government hides a lot of shit. Big Brother. You looking it up?
I'm trying to.
That's an interesting thing to look up. To say founding fathers and shrooms. I'm kidding.
Let's see. This is. It took me to Reddit right away. Season 1 of. Oh yeah. See, so they're talking about that. They're asking if it's
a real thing that's happened.
A real thing. I'll get back to you. Keep going.
All right, sick. Okay. So we're just going further down on the episode. Drew mentions this quote that I very much like. He says, "Health is about accepting, perceiving, and dealing with reality on reality's terms." And I was like, "Oof, that's some shit right there." It's very much like mic drop. Like, oh my god, it's a very existential. Like you can get into an existential crisis doing that. If you're in more control, you won't, but it all depends on the person. And let's see. Oh, yes, okay. So they were talking about, there was a metaphor that was said in this episode where Clancy says, when you're on this drug, it's like an elevator taking you up to the top floor, and you're going through this, and the door opens and you see this beautiful nirvana, like the most beautiful thing you could ever experience in the world. And then eventually you get back down to level 0 where you were. And then Drew cuts in and says something really interesting. What if it takes you down to your basement? What if it takes you down 2 levels lower? And that is actually very true from, again, personal experiences. And also, it didn't at the same time. Depending on, I don't know how to explain it without actually saying what I took. I'm not going to. But the come down from either or was one time bad, another time didn't have one. It was unheard of to me, and I was just like, wow, this is really nice. I hope this always happens.
I know I don't have very much personal experience with drugs, but when I have, the very few, the come down was the worst. It made me never want to do anything like that ever again. I'm good because it
took you down levels lower.
Yeah, it's a very high and a very low.
Yep.
It does not. It's a roller coaster, not a walk in the park.
And that's why people always stay on drugs, so they don't have to get taken down more levels than what they're used to.
Well, that's why you have withdrawals.
There is no level 0 for people that are, well, there is. I don't want to say that. That's a fucking horrible thing to say. There is a level 0 for people that are addicted. They just don't want to get there because they don't want to go through the process of going down to the basement, quote unquote, and having to work back up again. Because it's just easier to just, let me shoot up or take this pill or drink or smoke just to feel better because I can do that. It's the easiest thing to do instead of actually looking in yourself and trying to fix it, the addiction, or as to why you have this addiction in the first place. I'm not sure if I wrote this down correctly. This is what he said. I don't know if it makes sense. He goes, how do we control what we conceive?
How do we control what we conceive?
Conceive, yes.
Conceive,
yes.
Not perceive.
No, conceive.
Conceive.
Yes.
What we conceive, like generate?
Yeah, yes.
How do we control what we conceive?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well that's like, my first thought goes to intrusive thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Intrusive thoughts are things that everyone has. You can't control the ideas that you come up with.
Yeah, no, you can't. Because things kind of just happen.
Yeah, you can't control when you're on the side of a cliff and you just really want to jump. Like, I just really what about, like, you're not suicidal, it's just like
the TikTok.
But I could.
Like the TikTok intrusive thoughts.
Exactly, yeah.
Just cut your finger off. Cut it off.
Oh, shit. What happens if I just yeet this baby?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh god.
But I love that.
Let's not take that out of context. Let's not just quote this little bit of the episode. Watch, we're gonna get famous. We're gonna this podcast is gonna blow up, and then 5 years later, people are gonna start sharing clips of me being like, "What if I just yeet this baby?"
This turns some weird memes and shit.
Yeah. I did not fuck my cat.
Oh God.
Shane Dawson reference.
Shane fucking Dawson. R.I.P.
R.I.P. in peace.
So Clancy then mentions meditation and being aware of what your body feels, paying attention to your emotions, is another way to control what you conceive. Mm-hmm. He also mentions how psychedelics really helped him with his anger. Clancy, the character. Also, meditation helped with his anger a lot as well. In meditation, we are taught to, if we get angry or irritated while meditating, you practice this while meditating first, and then you practice it out into the real world. If your dog barks, if a car honks, if someone's revving their engine while you're meditating, and your peaceful yoga meditation music isn't covering it, it's instead of getting irritated and screaming at the person or the dog, you look at that anger while you're meditating as a rare animal, and you just let it pass. You just let it pass. You don't react to it, because all it really is when it comes to our emotions is how we react to them, the reactivity of them. And when I heard that, I was like, really got to listen to that.
That is hard for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, in Buddhism, they compare anger to a sweet flower with bitter roots. And so we follow the sweetness down to the bitter roots.
Because it feels real good to let out your anger.
It does.
Like, rah!
It does.
But then it gets real bad real quick.
Because you're letting that negative anger, that emotion, that energy into the world. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. Picture this whole process as taking a microscope and looking into the emotional patterns that are happening inside of you. That's kind of the whole process and the whole point into doing so, because you really are just trying to understand why you're feeling this way, why anything. And it all depends on certain people's brains, how their minds work, if they even want to do that. If anything, emotions to them are stupid. They find them ridiculous. Like, I don't want to have to deal with this. This is bullshit. So they push it down or push it away and focus on work, something else, so they don't sit with those thoughts. They don't sit with having to actually deal with what's going on inside.
Well, yeah, living in distraction is the best.
Sure is.
It's
very fun.
Ignorance is bliss for a fucking reason,
Yeah, and I take that term pretty hard, because as much as I like getting down to the nitty-gritty and trying to figure out why I feel this way, anxiety can kick in, and you get really freaked out. Like, me personally, after what I went through recently with my ex-fiance, I distracted the hell out of myself. There was not a day where I wasn't doing something. I had to do something, because, I was with this person for almost 2 years, and I was only used to that. So it's like, gotta get out of that, and it helped. And now I'm finally sitting down with my emotions and not full on distracting myself from the outside world.
Yeah.
Or with the outside world.
Hey, wow.
Yeah.
Not distracting myself with the outside world.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's great.
Jeez. And so the episode ends up, this is all of what they talk about in episode 1. And the episode ends with Clancy blowing a horn in which it opens his third eye, taking him back to his reality.
Mm-hmm.
And I put that in quotes because I seriously have no idea what the fuck is going on in this show. I'm trying my hardest.
It's not just, okay.
Yeah, it's not just, it's a simulation, but he gets taken back, and it's just it's very immersive. This next one is very, very, very short, because they talk a lot about religion.
Before you go to the next episode, I want to say the only thing that I found as far as this goes is that there's not much. There's a coin that it looks like there's a mushroom on it. There's some references to mushrooms.
So it's just kind of a theory.
Yeah, it's a theory. Benjamin Franklin writes a letter about certain things, but it's just, it's all circumstantial. There's nothing that's like, hey, this happened.
Yeah.
So that's the best I got on that.
So that fact is crossed out. I'm glad I put a question mark, not an exclamation
mark. It's a possible fact.
Possible fact. Right. So episode 2 is called Officers and Wolves. I, again, didn't write much on this one because it's interesting with what they're talking about. You don't need to say a lot or to get the point across. Like this last one, we said a lot to get the point across. Also, it was a very heavy situation, heavy topic. Mm-hmm. This one's very simple. Death. I'm not kidding.
Can we put that on the pillow too? This is very simple. ... Death.
So, Clancy is interviewing Annie Lamott. You can look her up as well. She is an American novelist, nonfiction writer, and also a progressive political activist, public speaker, and writing teacher. Her writings cover subjects such as alcoholism, single motherhood, depression, and Christianity. That is why there is not much written on here, because she severely talks about her belief in religion. And we're not doing that here. We're not talking about any sort of religion to anybody about anything. It's just not our business. You believe what you believe, and good on you. The main topic of this episode, though, she talks about not being scared of death. Because herself has been surrounded by death her entire life, so whenever she meets a friend or somebody that is going through this situation, going through a death in their lives, they come to her and ask for advice because of how much she's gone through. And instead of taking it negatively, she takes it positively and makes books into it. Yeah. Stuff like that. She shares her experiences with these said people and tells them what she did for herself. And I find that very interesting as well. I love that she wasn't bitter about it. I don't know much about her past. I want to read a biography on her. Oh, here. And
go ahead.
It's
you want to read about her?
Yes, I want to read. I want to read a biography on her because she mentioned how she went through struggles of not being a good writer anymore, because if she stops drinking, if she wasn't stopped becoming an alcoholic, if she was stopping herself from all of that, she wouldn't be a good writer. And apparently a lot of people go through this. Comedians, actors.
Absolutely.
And that I found very intriguing. It's like, why do you want, not why do you want to use a substance, but how do people get to that thought process?
Well, because it's like, I feel like it's more of a, this is, even if it's something that brings you pain, it's the most interesting thing
about you. That's what she said.
Wow, really?
That's what she said
really
in the
what
show.
She said?
Yeah, that's what she said.
Oh my god, look at me.
Look at you go. Didn't even watch it. You already know what's going on.
No clue.
But yeah, she mentions that her first book is called Hard Laughter. She talks about how her dad had like stage 4 cancer, and his best friend had another form of cancer. They were both dying, and they knew actively that they were dying. And they would sit outside of cafes and say, he would say, well, Susan, how's your cancer today? And she would, well, it doesn't hurt as much today. How's yours? And he goes, I'm okay. You know, just making light of the situation. Mm-hmm. And I very much appreciate that as well. My mom, she, again, went through her cancer and still stayed light. She still stayed positive because everyone knows looking into the positive side of things really, really helps you heal inside and out.
Sort of. I mean, I feel like it's, you know, a stigma that I don't know if stigma is the right word, but that comedy and comedians are usually the ones that go through, like, the worst. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, they're the ones who deal with the most because comedy is such a good outlet for getting through it and to make light of it, like you were saying, but it also doesn't really fix.
Yeah.
It just makes it easier to go through the moment, which is super helpful and awesome.
And it also helps you look at it from a different direction, a different way.
Yeah.
How to find another answer.
Right.
Just to look at it from a different light. Okay. So, she was saying her book is called Hard Laughter, Laughing Through Hardships because life is too short anyway. Accepting death can be very freeing depending on how you look at it, and it's a good mantra for going through death, just saying, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Simple as that. And that right there is basically how I ended it because it's just that simple.
Just
acceptance
of death.
Yeah, it sounds simple. It's hard to do. It's hard as hell. You can't just be like, all right, you know, my friend just died, cool. You know, you're going to go through the emotions. Sick. You know, you're going to go through the emotions. You're going to go through the pain. And it's just having to find a healthy way of dealing with it. Mm-hmm. There is no right or wrong. There's healthy or unhealthy.
Yeah.
Appreciate that a lot.
Yeah. That's huge.
Huge. Did you want to say anything before I go to episode 3?
I just completely agree with that. I think that from my own personal experience, my stepmom's mother, so my step-grandmother, when she died, she got cancer, and she found out right at the end of it all. And she, not de-escalated, what's the word? She... Not disintegrated.
I'm just looking at your hands, like trying to see if I can see the word through your hands.
She decayed very quickly. She went from very healthy seeming, she seemed very healthy, to she was diagnosed, and then very quickly it went...
Depleting.
Yeah.
Her personality depleted.
Not personality, her life. Her life depleted very quickly. She got very sick very quickly. She decided that she didn't want to try and fix it. She wanted to live out the rest of her life, call it a day. But she did say towards the beginning of it that she was not ready to die yet, that she did not have that acceptance, and towards the end she did end up saying that she has reached the acceptance of it, that she understands that, you know, fighting only goes so far. You know, like, yes, fight for your life, but fighting the acceptance that there's an inevitable end.
Like the flow of the river.
Exactly. I didn't know if you wanted me to.
No, that's okay. That's okay. The flow of the river. That falls into, you know, another show, my favorite of all time, Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I was talking about the last episode.
No, that too.
Oh, okay.
That too. They talk about opening chakras, and he explains what each chakra is and how you're supposed to unlock it. And the metaphor he used is a ton of puddles of creeks, and like they were going down like this in steps, and the way the water was going down was tiny little waterfalls, but the water wasn't fresh. It was clogged up because there was moss there. No one was there to clear it up, help the water flow. Do you want to check it?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. No, that's good. That was an end thought.
I figured that's why I wanted to get your attention.
Still recording?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Sick. Okay. All right. Fucking dying.
Sorry, girl. All right. Episode 3 is called Hunters Without a Home, featuring Damien Eccles. Definitely look this man up. Damien is best known for the worst years of his life. Damien Eccles. He was sentenced to life in prison for murder.
Oh, I know this story.
Yes. for some satanic ritual. He spent 18 years in, and new evidence showed that he was somehow not a part of it anymore. I didn't get into it as to why his case was like this and why he was no longer in prison. But he does explain in this episode how going to prison, he's not negative about it whatsoever. He's actually okay with it. And by the end of his sentence, it didn't feel like a prison. His cell felt like a watchtower. This is something that he said. And I was like, wow, that's so interesting, because he had full-on control within himself through all the teachings of meditation and magic. I know that one kind of like a hard left, different kind of situation, but believe it or not, the topic of this whole thing is magic and meditation. How in Eastern and Western cultures, it's either taken as meditation, spirituality, or magica. The pentagram. The pentagram is known is for magic, not for satanic situations. I wish people would understand that. Yes, in this episode, Damien is trying to say that when doing magic, meditation is very important, because when you are doing a spell of some sort, the point is to focus all your energy into that said spell, potion, emotion, etc., etc. He mentions how magic is everything to him. He studies it, and he is the magic man. This is what he calls himself. And I'm quoting him right here. There's a few reasons why people get into magic. It is to manifest things in their day-to-day lives, focusing our energy in doing so. So we focus all we focus all of our energy to positive energy, getting little things, getting little things while projecting positivity can actually mean a lot to you. The career you want, the relationship you want, or even the parking spot. The other reason for doing magic is what Damien calls spiritual sustenance, where you are deliberately invoking energy and intelligences that you then absorb into your energy system, into your aura, to make you grow and make you change. That is one thing that I very much love.
Right.
A lot as well. I love this fucking show. And honestly, I always thought, whenever, people say magic, Chris Angel, America's Got Talent, people that, cards, sleight of hand, stuff like that. That is magic, but it also is starting to make me believe in magic. If he is talking about meditation and focusing all your energy into that, that's literally probably the explanation to magic.
Yeah.
Right there.
Right.
And I don't need to question myself anymore, saying, how the fuck did he do that?
He did it.
He just did it.
He did it.
He did it because of his energy.
He done did it.
He done did it.
So in my little research right now, I highly recommend a podcast, Mile Higher podcast. They actually did an entire podcast on the West Memphis 3, and that's why when you said Damien Eccles, that's why when you said Damien Eccles, that hit something. I was like, I know that name.
Yeah, I should have mentioned the Memphis 3, because that's how I knew of them.
Yeah. They I highly recommend you watch that podcast. First off, it's a huge inspiration for us, that podcast in general. But that episode in particular will do a lot of backstory and explaining who he is, the situation, why he was in prison, why he was out of prison.
I have yet to listen to that. Actually.
Really?
I have to listen to that.
I listened to it, and it is very, very good.
That's
very
so cool
good
that name triggered a memory.
Oh yeah, I was like, I know that, and I know
Brains.
that I heard Josh talk about it.
So cool. So Damien then mentions how people nowadays complain so much about things they don't like, so it's just feeding that negative chi and adding power to it. Again, meditation. But it all depends on situations and where they are in the world. Eastern and Western, like I said, Eastern and Western brain fart. Brain farts.
Eastern and Western
cultures. That's the word. There we go. Okay. We are supposed to focus on what it is we want in the future, something positive to move towards to, instead of just saying, ugh, I don't want this to happen, I don't want to go here, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. It's the whole point of even trying to be a positive person if you're just constantly bashing on shit.
Right.
Did you hear me?
Oh, God. Okay.
Nothing. Anyway, I coughed, really. Choked on myself. Corona.
Coronavirus.
Shit's getting real. Another thing I learned from this is that when you're on the path to enlightenment, which people talk about a lot, and no matter what culture you're in, Buddhism, it be Hinduism, anything, when it comes to spirituality, magic, whatever, it's not the final step in meditation. A lot of people think that is the final step. Avatar: The Last Airbender thought that was the final step. It's not. And this is where I have to move to my phone for these notes. Let's see. After that, and gaining enlightenment, they're in magic what they call solar consciousness, which is being completely present in the moment. I gotta go to my other notes. I had to talk this one because
this is a cross-platform
situation. I said continuation of season 1, episode 3, Midnight Gospel, what Damien says. This whole thing that I'm about to say is what he said. After you develop solar consciousness, the next step in this process is developing what we call, the Magic Man people, the solar body. You are building a vehicle to allow your consciousness not to disintegrate at the point of what they call second death. First death is whenever your physical body dies. The second death is whenever your astro or ethnic body begins to unravel. That's whenever your consciousness goes through this cosmic washing machine. Every aspect of your personality is washed out of this said ethnic body. and is recycled into something else. When I heard that, I'm pausing right now. When I heard that, I thought of past lives. Mm-hmm. A lot of people who are connected in that way, past lives. I very much was like, oh, that's definitely what he means. If you develop the solar body, that doesn't happen. You put your consciousness into the solar body at the moment of death, then you become not entirely and not exactly the same, but your consciousness has been completely unbroken for eternity. On that point on, you can then come into the physical realm when, where, and how you choose to do so, if you choose to do so. The whole point is, in doing so, is to help others. Beethoven once said, the point of being alive and the point of being human is to approach divinity as close as possible, as close as you possibly can, and disseminate the rays to mankind. Those kind of rays. And that kind of actually leaves me a little speechless because I've never really heard that before. Mm-hmm. I was like, solar consciousness, like what is this? Again, Western and Eastern cultures learn different things. I'm pretty sure it's called something else for people who practice meditation, who go to Thailand and anywhere, mm-hmm. study anything with Buddhism, monks, the Dalai Lama, anybody. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like just a thought of your energy existing and carrying on
for eternity.
Correct.
For eternity, yeah.
Exactly. Which does go into past lives. But we're going to have a whole podcast about on past lives. Yeah, because definitely. What I was looking up was a question that I have for, like, just past lives in general.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually done with that episode, so...
so my question was, like, so my understanding of, like, past lives and stuff is that if you, like, when you die, your energy carries on and you reincarnate into another being, mm-hmm. Having some trace of you and your past lives that comes to affect you.
Yes.
And if your energy, carries on and that happens over and over and over and over and over again, yes, we are evolving as a species, but as I was saying, so if your energy continues on and that's been going on forever and it is a forever cycle, to me it seems like you would eventually reach a point where everyone has done this over and over and over again to where they begin with this innate knowledge and they grow as a human species. You know what I mean? Like, if I have had past lives forever and ever and ever and I'm taking a little bit from that and I'm growing as a person each time, that's the whole theory, is that you are growing into this state of nirvana and perfection.
Yeah.
Okay, then why aren't we all closer?
Because I haven't. That just made me so excited. Okay, because there is such thing as baby souls. Newly created souls. Again, my ex was a new baby soul. She didn't understand shit. She she didn't have the experiences that me and another person have had. The dreams that you can't explain. Like dreams from the 40s, the 20s, that seem so real, yet you look so different.
Right.
You're like, why am I some white blonde bitch? I don't know.
No, well, I understand that. I understand that there could be, like, these, baby souls, but there is not one, I don't know. It just seems like if the majority were, these souls that come back and progress each time, that we as a whole would be a lot farther.
It's very selective. It's because it all depends on how ready the world is.
I'm just saying, if it's eternal in the past, eternal in the future, energy cannot be created or destroyed, all that kind of stuff. It just seems maybe the rate of progression is extremely slow, but it doesn't really make sense to me on how it affects, how past lives can affect your future lives as far as bringing you closer, when the evidence that I just see, the anecdotal evidence, is that we are not closer to this perfection, and if we're all moving along and having these things, that we would be closer to perfection at this point. As a whole, not individuals.
But what is perfection?
Okay, now we're getting into like a whole different podcast.
That's kind of me just saying.
Right.
What is the definition of perfect? There is no perfect anything.
I'll tell you what, the society that we live in 2020 with the United States is not perfection or getting anywhere near it. So
vote.
It's not that. Go vote.
Vote. God damn it.
God damn it.
God damn it. Alright. The rest are not that long at all. It's just page by page now.
Okay, we're on episode 4?
4. Blinded by My End, featuring Trudy Goodman.
Ooh, I love Trudy Goodman. I know Trudy Goodman.
Look at that. That just made me really excited.
And I know Damien Eccles. See, look at me go.
Damn. Yeah, this man, Clancy, is voiced by Duncan Trussel. Duncan Trussel Family Hour is his podcast. He still does it. He just decided to do this show. Not entirely too sure why. Huge entertainment. And I guess it's just to get people to understand all these situations. These topics are huge. It might be a silly show, and the visuals might be weird as all hell, but it very much opens your third eye, or tries to make you realize what the hell's going on, or tries to wake you up in a bit, in a way. So Trudy has a PhD and has trained in 2 fields, meditation and psychotherapy. She practiced Buddhism for meditation and does many, many classes. I couldn't even list them. She has so many different damn classes that can teach everything that she has learned when it comes to each thing. This episode's whole goal is forgiveness. Trudy quickly says in the episode, as the episode starts, that, and I quote, forgiveness is freeing your own heart from these states of grudge, resentment, anger, and ill will. Sometimes that's the best we can do. We're not going to love our enemy, but we don't have to be obsessed for our lifetime with the harm that it was done to us. This is huge. huge, because this is what people stand by. I don't forgive. I will never forget, because I was hurt so bad. Like, fuck that person. Like, what is that doing for you besides making you angry? Besides thinking about a time that you didn't want to be alive, don't even want to think about, but yet you're so obsessed with it, it's still popping up into your head.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just making you angry. What is that doing for you?
Right.
You know, forgiveness is a big deal.
Mm-hmm. I'm sensing a real big theme as we go along these episodes. It's very much...
It's very spiritual.
But it's very much just the idea of letting things go and acceptance, whether that be of someone who did you wrong, of addiction, not acceptance to the addiction, but acceptance through the addiction. I feel or death, you know, like.
Yep, exactly. Is that it? Okay. This is very huge to me because, I'm just going to say it, my ex-fiance cheated on me. And instead of me trying to hate her, I actually literally physically could not. Only because from my first relationship before her, I thought the best way of healing was hating the hell out of that person. And that person didn't even do me wrong as much as my ex-fiance recent just did. But for some reason, somewhere in my mind, hating is going to be a good way to make me heal. And it didn't. It made me bitter, made me change. Everyone was like, where's Yaya? Like, who is this person that's so angry, snapping on people? And it's just because it wasn't my ex's fault. It was just because of me projecting all that anger and not being able to forgive her. Like, it's just like the hardest way for you to have any sort of growth whatsoever. Like, literally whatsoever. There's no point in hating.
Right.
At all.
There's no point in hating, but there is point in growing and understanding. And, you know, anger is definitely an important emotion. Getting the best of your letting the anger overcome you is not good, but a healthy bit of anger, especially, like, in situations where you have been done wrong.
Yep.
You know, it's okay to be angry about that, and it's okay to not hate. You don't want to hate, but you do want to be angry.
Exactly.
You know?
You can be angry for a minute, but hate is a very
different thing.
Strong situation too.
Right.
Negative, very negative. But yeah, me hating my first ex for a while halted any sort of growth that I could have gone through. If anything, I went a couple steps backwards. And it was just kind of me not getting my closure whatsoever. Instead, I got my closure in something else.
Yeah.
I found my closure in another way.
Right. I think that it's very much a thing, especially with forgiveness, of you don't forgive for the other person. You don't hate for the other person. You forgive for yourself.
Yep.
Or you hold on to hate, not for yourself, but despite yourself. The only one you're really hurting by forgiving or not forgiving is yourself.
Exactly.
That's it. That's the only thing that, you know, it doesn't make them feel any better.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. You are only hurting yourself or helping yourself with your mindset on things and how you can come to accept the things that have been done to you.
Yes, severely. And I'm not gonna lie, finding my closure was probably one of the biggest stepping stones in my life from that first relationship. I didn't get that first relationship closure till after my ex-fiance did what she did to me, because I didn't fully understand my first ex's feelings. We didn't really fully talk about it. Let's see. Okay, in the episode, they talk about more things. What did I write here? Oh yes, okay. So another like topic in that show is just listening to others, listening to them, and for as much as we want to get our closure from other people, we should let people get their closure as well, the right way, of course. If they're using it in a negative way, trying to put some negative emotions on you, you have every right to be like, steer clear, get out of here. Like, I don't want to hear it. I don't need to hear it. We've all been through that situation. You went through that situation. You got something, you didn't want it. You're like, okay, bye. Like, I don't need to hear it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because, like...
You got your closure from your end already.
Yeah, or if I was not ready to
receive.
Yeah, like, just because, let's say, you and I were fighting.
Never happens.
Never, not once. But let's say you and I were fighting, and there's something that I'm holding on to for myself, like that I'm upset about, that I need to work through for myself, and you come and you apologize to me.
Yep.
You have every right to apologize to me. You have every right to seek my forgiveness and everything. That doesn't mean that I have to respond to you. That doesn't mean that I have to forgive you when you're ready to be forgiven.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I get to forgive you. I have the right to forgive you when I am ready to forgive you.
Exactly.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And but that doesn't mean I'm holding a grudge.
No.
You know what I mean?
Huge difference.
Yeah, like, just because I'm not ready to really be done with everything, I'm not ready for that closure where it's completely done, that doesn't mean that I am still angry or that I am still holding things actively against you.
Yeah.
It just means that I have not reached the place where I am completely removed from that. I hope that makes a little bit of sense.
No, it does.
Okay.
It does. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. You never have to forgive someone when they're ready to be forgiven.
Exactly. And if they make you feel that way, if they're making you feel bad, that's just on showing them that they're not even ready.
Yeah.
It's showing us that they're not even ready.
Right. Don't show hate, don't show any kind of ill will, but just, I'm not ready to talk to you right now.
Exactly.
I'm not ready to go through this right now.
Exactly.
I will let you know. When I am cool, when I am ready to have this conversation, I will let you know.
Exactly. And that just comes with respect.
Yeah.
Too.
Oh, yeah.
Just major respect. And now we're merging on to episode 5. Almost done, actually. Annihilation. Annihilation?
Annihilation?
Annihilation.
Is that what you were trying to say?
Annihilation.
Annihilation? Annihilation of joy.
Yeah.
So, like,
yeah.
Joy. Oh,
yes.
okay.
This episode is extremely depressing.
Wow.
And if you have a problem with existential crisis, do not watch this episode.
Remind me not to watch this episode.
You did.
No, I did.
This is the one with the soul bird.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
we only watched like
half
15
of
minutes of it. It's confusing as all fuck.
Yeah, I was like, what is happening right now?
So, this guy is Jason Louv. L-O-U-V. He's an actor.
Love?
Love.
L-O-V?
L-O-U-V.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He is an author, futurist, and wizard. Not. It's what it says on Wikipedia. Look at. It's there. In this episode, Jason is telling Clancy that we are all connected in some way. Indra, and something with the Hindu theory is the Indra's net. I didn't really look into that. I should have, but I did not. Actually, I think I had it down so you could. Indra's net. I-N-D-R-A-S. Net. The Hindus very much believe in this severely. The Buddha actually looked at it, and the diagnostics of the Buddha is that it's like we think we exist, therefore we suffer. Told you this was dark. This episode has a fuckload of information that's pretty hard to get into, so I highly suggest watching the episode if you do not, like I said, warning, existential crisis, if you can't handle that, anxiety, don't watch it, take a Xan, or smoke some weed if you're
We
prescribed.
literally just said.
If you're prescribed Xans for anxiety. Yeah. They talk about Tibetan Buddhism. Yeah. Yeah! Damn.
Vine, R.I.P. and peace.
Vine, always referencing, never stopping. There is all kinds of different societies and cultures and what spiritual practices they believe in. And this, if this life is a dream or not. And going through selfishness is different in different cultures. That's basically one fat sentence trying to describe the I guess I could say, thickness of this episode.
I will say that just seeing the little bit of this episode stressed me out a lot.
Not only with what the hell's going on in the background.
The background was just a lot, and then it was so quick. It was just so information dump that it was really hard to follow.
Yeah, Jason
what
kept
exactly
talking.
He was saying.
Yeah, Jason was just like spewing out information. I'm just like,
yeah.
What?
Yeah, and it was just so constant that it was really difficult to keep up with the sentences, and like, you know, he described the net and the different things and what different people think of
the net.
But I honestly had no idea what he was talking about by the end of it. I tried to follow it.
It's very hard.
It was like
you have to genuinely listen to it. You cannot watch it.
I feel like you have to listen to it a couple times.
You do. This is probably my 10th, 11th, 20th time watching this whole series, and I still don't know what the hell he's talking about. Maybe, if anything, last night, since I was writing shit down, it made me understand. This is actually almost done. They talk a lot about VR situations as well, how people use it to escape the feeling of existing. Some people don't know how to handle it, and he mentions it sucks and it hurts to have a body, a physical body.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's dark. The other ones are great. This one's nah. And they also...
This whole show's a little dark.
It's pretty dark. And they basically, again, just talk about existential crisis. And they don't even talk about how to get through it. They kind of just tell you...
It sucks.
It sucks. It's here. It's what we're going through. And oh fucking well.
Yeah.
So that's episode 5.
Well, but I also feel like that also goes along with the theme of acceptance, because a big thing... That's just hearing all of this, honestly, from only seeing the last episode... It makes a lot of sense.
Now, huh?
Yeah,
because the last episode sums up everything that he talks about.
It really does. And I really think that the main theme is acceptance. And for me, you know...
Make the main theme of the whole show?
Yes.
I like that.
I genuinely believe
I never even thought about a main theme. I just look into each episode of what they are in it of themselves because of the topics inside. It's so much, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think big picture when I see how they're all connected.
That's cool.
Which is why I made a complete timeline of the world of Black Mirror.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing of mine, but you know,
it is.
It's fun. It's fun. But yeah, I see it as like a whole thing of acceptance, and I think that a big thing that they're trying to get across, that it sounds like they're getting across in this episode in particular, is that acceptance and like, you know, it's not good. Things aren't good. It's not like there's a happy ending. It's not like there's, you know...
We don't know.
Happiness. Yeah, like...
We don't know.
No. Just the point of that episode in particular is just that by existing, there is unhappiness. That's like the point. You know what I mean? By existing, you do have this negativity... Not you being negative. It's just
because you
Yes,
exist.
yeah, and you know the world sucks. Everything, you know. That's the point that I think it's making, is that, you know, even through acceptance, even if you are the most accepting person in the world, even if you're Renelin, our friend,
very spiritual,
very
like connected.
Things still suck, and they will suck, and it's just gonna happen. You know, and that's kind of, just because you accept that doesn't mean that you're happy with that, doesn't mean that you are an overall happy person, just means that this is how it's doing. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's and as much as confusing it was watching, what is actually said is very, like, people tend to finally appreciate it. At first they're like, ew, what a dick. Like, I don't want to hear this.
Yeah.
Because they have the anxiety of not wanting to deal with that. On to episode 6, Vulture with Honor, featuring David Nickturn. Duncan Trussel, creator of the show, voice of Clancy, he actually does multiple podcasts with this man. I love this man. I love hearing his voice. It's so comforting. He is an American songwriter, TV composer, soundtrack artist, and Buddhist teacher. He actually studied Buddhism for more than 20 years, 15 years, I can't remember fully. This one is going to be very short because it's not a lot on the space cast that Clancy does with David. It's more along the line with the cartoon story and theory, what's going on in the background, which we can get into later, hopefully. Just to sum up why Clancy talks to David is because he gets really, really angry for what's going on around him, and Computer asks him if he wants to meet his friend. He goes, "Fuck your friend," and then he slips and falls into the simulator, and he has no choice then to meet the friend, and he's screaming at David, this super soft dude, and he's just screaming at him and reflecting his anger onto him. He's like, "Now you see who you are, filled with fucking rage." And then David just literally goes, "You done?"
Oof. Oof. Ooh, the ultimate comeback when someone's just going off.
Yeah, you done?
You done?
Because he's fine, he's chilling. He then says, literally from saying "you done" to here's three principles you can check out. 1 is silence, giving you room to listen. 2,
shut the fuck up.
Yeah, basically. 2, stillness, giving you room to feel. And 3rd is spaciousness, just giving you room, just chilling. And this is a few key principles in meditation. That's what he's telling him to do, is to meditate. And they go on to meditating. Clancy is no longer angry, but is very enlightened, at least from what he thinks. Being enlightened can be taken in many different ways. He goes on to tell David, this is big, the moment I just accepted where I was instead of wishing I was somewhere else, everything just got better. Simple sentence, truest fact ever. Acceptance.
The theme continues on.
Honestly, I should have figured it out last night. That is all about acceptance. I did think, oh man, these are all pretty similar, but I didn't think.
This is why I'm here. You know,
it's why we got this.
I have to come up with something.
Where does he say? Oh yeah. David says, it's like living in a tiny apartment. Once you give yourself room for your thoughts, it's like moving into a bigger house. Yep. Then there is room to invite people in. So.
Oof. Oof.
Yes.
And ooh.
And ooh. Yeah. Spitting those facts. Man, I love David Nichtern, man.
That was great. That's great.
He also says it's very important. A lot of people get it confused. Meditation is supposed to silence your mind. That's aggression. It's like you're trying to silence a kid. You can't do that. You can't just make a kid shut up. Your brain is always gonna be thinking. It's never gonna be just empty. It's possible. You can do it. It's just not the whole point in meditation. The whole point onto the path of enlightenment, situations like that. You just need to accept that you have these thoughts. Again, exception. Exception. Accepting. Listen, curious stoner.
Actual engineer.
I make my own words. Leave me alone. And I ended up just writing a little heart after that because coming down to it, that's really what it is. It's just accepting you have these thoughts, being able to sit comfortably with these thoughts, and then work your life around them or with them.
I do think that when you're angry or when you lash out in anger, that is the most narrow-minded you can be. You know what I mean? You are very focused on that. That's all you see. Anger is very much, it takes over completely, which is what I thought of when you said the apartment metaphor.
Yes.
It was very much like, that is all you see, that is all you know, you have blinders on. And
tunnel vision.
Yeah, it's very much tunnel vision. And like, what I tell you when you get angry and we're just talking in general, usually now I tell her, hey, center yourself.
Because she knows I'm on my journey currently, right now.
Yeah, and based off of like the different things she's told me she's working on, like all that stuff, it's, hey, I know you're angry right now, let's be able to communicate our anger rationally.
Yep.
Be angry, that's totally fine. Let's center yourself so that you can do those sick burns.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
So that you can do those sick burns later.
Exactly. Don't lash out in anger now because later it can be said
Because trust
better.
me, you're going to think of better ways to say these things.
I always do. So when I acted out before, I always thought of better things to say later. And some situations could be a lot better for me now.
Exactly, which is why I feel like it's being in that little apartment versus still having the same, very similar feelings, but opening your mind enough to get out of that, to kind of accept that it happened and be like, what am I going to do about it now, or how am I going to respond to this, knowing the big picture, not just this little picture that you see.
Yes,
and so I think that's very powerful.
Yeah, and then Clancy says something that I just remembered right now. He goes, well, what if it's almost equivalent to having a giant house with a bunch of shit in it, being a hoarder. That's when your mind is full. That's when you're not talking about your emotions. That's when you're not letting people in.
Right.
So you're crowding your mind with all this crap when you could have when you can let out your emotions, meditate, understand where you are, and all of that. I just love hearing that.
And see, I feel like meditation is, for me personally, I don't consciously meditate. I don't do these things. I'm not just that kind of person. I can appreciate and understand that meditation works really well for people and everything. I just personally don't follow it usually.
It is hard. It is hard to do. Meditation isn't easy.
Right. You know? Right. But I feel like you can reach. I genuinely feel like you can reach this place without having to physically meditate, without having to physically do these steps, do these things. You know, anything like that. You know, I really don't feel like you need that because I am very good at when a situation happens and when stuff is going on, I am very good at taking the step back. I'm very good at listening to music, you know, my personal form of meditation that is not, and I'm sorry, I'm going to reference the show.
It's okay.
That is the last episode in the show. My form of meditation is not, I'm going to stare at my hand and feel the inside of my hand.
Oh, that's not meditation. That's becoming present.
That's becoming present and aware. But I do feel like that you do become present and aware while you're doing meditation. That's one of the goals. Yes. And I just don't personally do that. So I think that you can still take things from the show and still like practice meditation without practicing meditation. Like these things don't come in black and white. You do this, you're meditating. I can meditate even though I don't consciously meditate to silence my mind and sit in silence. You know what I mean? That's just my take.
That was very, very well put.
Thank you.
I did want to say though, when you said I learned through Renelin that having a certain tone of voice, like ooh, like if you do that for a long period of time when you're stressed out, it's something about that tone that helps you relax. If you just and you vibrate, it does. She said something about it not opening your third eye, but you feel it. You kind of feel you feel it. You feel your brain vibrating. I don't know how else to say it. It's like your brain is stimulated. It's stimulated, and it's making you kind of like, oh.
Okay, you turn your brain on, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Getting that brain stimulation.
Turning it on.
And chicken.
Left brain, right brain.
Okay, Bo Burnham though.
Okay, we gotta do
an episode on Bo Burnham.
That's gonna be a comedy.
I gotta write that down.
Yeah, please. I don't want to forget that. All right, episode 7 is Turtles of the Eclipse. Very, very interesting way for Duncan Trussel Clancy to go about this. Caitlin Doughty, I think that's how you say her name, Caitlin Doughty. She is the voice, in this episode, guest, she is the voice of Death, actual Grim Reaper. And it's very, very intriguing on how he chose this person because this is her background. Caitlin is an American mortician, author, blogger, and YouTube personality known for advocating death acceptance. And the reform of Western funeral industry practices. She literally, that's what I put right here, she literally plays the part of Death in this episode. Clancy asks Death how to go through losing someone or how to accept death when it's someone that you love or a pet or just trying not being angry in that. He literally asks, how do you do that? And Death responds, right. So, Death then responds with simply stating, the best thing you can possibly do in your entire life is to be super present during these moments. Again, presence. There really is a lot of connections here. Being super present in those moments, like 100% in it, you're there, you're sitting with the dead body, someone that you loved, she really said it like this, or in another situation, sitting and being aware with a newborn wailing, covered in mucus child, just being there and fully present.
We're good.
Okay, just making sure.
I can see the blinking.
I can see the blinking. Let's see. These are the moments of primal reality that we don't get in our daily lives. It's true. You're not.
Yeah.
Accepting.
Because you live in a world of distraction. You live in a life of constant distraction. Work, school, whatever. You cannot just be present all the time.
Absolutely not. It's hard to do if you're present.
It's your moments of presence, not life of presence,
yes.
Honestly.
And we're humans.
Right.
Shit happens.
That'd be pretty boring if you were just present all the time. Like, then nothing would happen. Because you would have to just be purely focused. I mean, monks do that. That's totally fine. I'm just saying for myself.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm just saying for myself, I wouldn't want to be, like, just present and thinking about being present all the time. That just sounds, like, exhausting.
It can be. Clancy and Death continue on to saying, it's kept from us by an elaborate system, a theory in which is called the death industrial complex. I should look that up too. So basically, from what I took from what she said,
Got it.
You got it. Okay. Yeah. What I took from what she said was them kind of, I guess you could say, demonizing death or making us kind of scared of it.
I'm just going to read what just first came up when I said death industrial complex definition. Mm-hmm. It says that it's a meditation on the cultural obsession with the bodies of dead women and an occult invocation of an artist, Francesca Woodman. Mm-hmm. These are poems as possessions, Gothic ekphrases, dialogues with the dead, biography and anti-biography, a stunning act of crypto beauty. Because it's a book.
Oh.
It's a book.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah, it's a book.
Look at that. I kind of want to read that book.
It's a poetry book. It's a book of poems. And each poem, that's what it's saying.
I want it.
They're poems as from the point of view as possessions and this Gothic and the dialogues with the dead.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff.
That's amazing. I don't know how she kind of incorporated that. I guess it kind of makes sense because then she talks about, she boldly states facts as to why the U.S. became more accepting, actually, for death and
mm-hmm.
stuff like that. Because of the American Civil War, we're going back a couple years, embalming started. In the 20th century, the American Civil War, embalming started. Yes, that's what we were talking about. Keep bodies fresher longer so people can have proper funerals back at home. So the embalming people would follow the war around, place up tents in mm-hmm. where they're staying, the forts, whatnot, and up abandoned bodies that they worked on so they could see how good their work was. That's when it took a huge turn, when death took a huge turn.
Yeah.
Severely. These embalmers, at the time they used arsenic as a preservative. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't.
Yeah. And they used it, not only arsenic, but sawdust. They filled the body with sawdust because embalming fluid didn't exist yet. Sawdust or newspaper. They put newspaper in the brain, sawdust in the body. I actually know this, not from this, from something else.
It reminds me of ancient Egypt and the steps that they would go through to mummify and to preserve bodies. That's kind of along, I mean, they do different things. They, take out all the organs and do everything like that. But the preservation of bodies and stuff, that's just what it reminds me of.
That's really interesting. I didn't even think about that. That's awesome. Let's see. After the war ended, these workers needed to convince the rest of the country that embalming is the way to go. The way they were able to do this is selling the fact that if they went with this process, it's safer for the body for you to be around. Back then, there was a lot of diseases and stuff like that.
Right.
So they say immediately if someone had a disease, if someone was sick, the government would take that body from you and just cremate it. You don't get to say goodbye. You don't get to kiss them. Nothing. The death states in this that after doing this whole process, after the body dies, after taking out its organs, filling it up, whatever, it's safe to be around. It's okay. You won't get sick.
Yeah.
Is that true?
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Because the embalming process, you drain them of all their fluids, you drain them of everything. Mm-hmm. Like, that process, the process of embalming is not safe because you are,
I was
exposed to all this bacteria and these chemicals and everything. Mm-hmm. But once the embalming process is done, then you are just a shell.
Yeah.
That's all it is. You
just
are
a shell.
You're a stuffed shell.
Yummy.
No, I just don't have another way to say. You are taxidermied.
Basically.
You are, so anything, let's say you have COVID. You get all your blood, you get all your mucus, you get all your little nasty out. Your skin does not have COVID on it. You're fine.
But for the embalmers, that would be dangerous for them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't recommend, never mind.
No.
Let's not go there.
I felt it. You saw my eyes widen.
We both were like, yeah, we're not going to finish that sentence.
Yeah, so fast forward now, the whole reason as to why death said this whole thing is basically because that's the reason why funerals are a thing. That's why wakes are a thing. So we can accept that person is gone, and you get to say goodbye. You get your closure.
Yeah.
And that was the whole basis of that episode.
Acceptance.
Again. Now, episode 8. I didn't write much about this one.
This is the one that I have seen.
Yes.
And I have thoughts.
Episode 8, Mouse of Silver, featuring his mom. I'm just going to say this now. His mom died years ago. Years and years and years ago. Unfortunate. Very, very sad about that. Of some sort of 2 types of cancer or 1 type of cancer. I didn't want to, get into that. But he put this podcast, Duncan Trussel, at the very end of his entire series because what they talked about literally summed up everything.
Yeah, so he did this podcast with his mother years ago before she died.
I think it was like 6 years ago. I gotta find out when exactly. And it's not even on Spotify. Mm-hmm. He has his whole podcast on Spotify. It's not even on there. And right after they had done this episode, she passed away, unfortunately. And so, I actually already said that. Wow. In this episode, Duncan and his mom are talking about how it was being raised, how it was raising or giving birth to Duncan. And what was it like having him as a son? Later on, Duncan says, so you're subscribed to the idea that you're subscribed to that idea from your formative part of our lives create the beginning of a pattern that goes throughout our life. Mom responds, yes. I would say that the first 5 years of our lives shapes the personality structure in such a way that any kind of spiritual work that's done later is going to involve looking back and reviewing those patterns. That way, we are set down with our those patterns that were set down in our family of origin. Mm-hmm. So it's like basically stating the first 5 years of your life, who you're with, who your family was, or if you're still with that family, kind of forms all of that.
Well, that's when your brain, psychologically speaking, that's correct. Mm-hmm. That's a known thing. Those are called the formative years. Yeah. That is when you are the most malleable. That is when your personality is the most not up in the air, but formative. It can be changed at that point. As you get older, it's a lot harder to change your personality and how you think. Mm-hmm. You could change what you think, but not how you think. And that is really where you learn how to think.
I agree, but also when I was writing this down, I kind of contradicted myself because before writing all of this down, or actually no, day after, I saw a show on the show called What Would You Do? And it was a guy who was coming out to his friends. He was bisexual, and the friends are like, "You're not bisexual. You're either gay or straight. Period. Mm-hmm. Like, we're fine with you being gay. Why don't you just say you're gay?" And there's a veteran, active soldier who was eating in that same diner, comes up and says, "I would have never sat with you back when I was a kid, your age. I would have never been around you, but my thought process has changed." He's like, "You're a person." Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's when I think of things like that.
That is what you think ching, not how you think. That is different.
I see.
You see what I mean?
Because I'm saying
me at 17 years old with how I grew up, mm-hmm. which is a totally different podcast. Yeah. But me with how I grew up and where I was at 17, I think completely different now. Yeah. Like my thoughts, my opinions, everything like that, completely, absolutely different than how I was raised. Me too. A lot of people who are born into cults or born into things like that, they do change. You mm-hmm. do change as a person. However, how you think, how things come together in mm-hmm. your head, the process of it, yes. how you get from A to B, that is kind of there. Mm-hmm. How you interpret things and things like that, it's the way that you think is there. Yeah. And that, instilled. I believe, you cannot change. What you think changes, not how you think. That's my personal opinion.
Okay. After that quote, I said I don't want to say many details on this episode. I even suggest watching this episode more than the other one that I said that was too hard. With
episode
Jason
5,
Love. With Jason Love, yeah. And
this episode made me cry, and I don't cry,
I cry all the time.
Very often. She cries all the time. I don't cry all the time. I cry very little. It didn't make me, cry, like, no tears came out. I teared up, for sure. It's very powerful. They do a very, very good job with it. Also, going back to what we were talking about in the beginning of this episode.
Yes.
So, they recorded the audio of the podcast in 2013, 3 weeks exactly before she died.
Yep.
Which just makes it so much harder to hear everything that she says in that. And I don't understand how, it's just so powerful and it's so good.
Even thinking about it makes you want to cry because of what is said and you can feel the love that they have for each other.
Oh, yeah. And
just by listening.
This show and what I've seen from it, the audio and the video are very much not on the same page.
Absolutely not.
It doesn't have anything to do with each other, but this one does. And you can just watch it, and it makes it, the imagery makes it so much more powerful. Uh-huh.
I love that. Because what it is he goes through the simulator, is a baby, and his mom's there. And he goes, "Mom?" And she picks him up, and they're starting the podcast. That's just like that. They start the podcast, and as they're talking and walking, he's growing up. She's getting old. He then is in a full-on adult. I'm looking at the camera, and it's not even on.
I know.
I just realized that.
That's why I've gotten comfy. The camera died, by the way. That is why now there's audio only. So now we're just comfortable hanging out.
Yeah. He then, it continues again. She dies. He's an older man, whatever. He gets pregnant with her. This is the animation. He gets pregnant with her.
The animation gets a little weird here, but stay with it.
Yeah, and then he gives birth to her, and they're continuing on the podcast.
And now she grows.
She's growing. He's getting old. And that's when they start talking very, very, very deeply. At first, it was just funny, talking about
his birth.
Yeah, his birth, tit sucking babies.
They start calling babies tit suckers.
Yeah,
it's fine.
This is great. Where is this? I said one of my favorite things mentioned is to help people get out of their heads by studying presence. That's when you do the hand thing, and that's you start off staring at your pinky, index finger. Wow. And that's exactly what happened in the fucking thing. Okay, you start off staring at your index finger, and you take all of your thoughts, anything that your brain power can do. What does it feel like? What does it feel like?
You were asking the wrong person.
I know, because you said you can't feel it.
I think this goes along with what I was saying about meditating. Yeah. This form, it doesn't make sense to my brain. I don't know how to do it. Yeah. And I wish that we had the camera going right now so you can see us hold our hands up and stare at it.
That's what you do. It starts off with your finger to your hand, arms, and then legs. And she didn't mention about the body, like your torso, the mind. She just talked about limbs. Mm-hmm. I liked that a lot. It helps me a lot, actually. Before I knew about that practice, a friend of mine from a long time ago named Giselle, whenever I would start freaking out, the first time she saw me freak out, I called her, and she goes, "Hey, do me a favor," because she's not good with dealing with a lot of people's emotions. She goes, yeah, do me a favor. And I said, what? She goes, touch the wall. I'm like, okay. I touched the wall. She goes, what does it feel like? Tell me, what are the couple things that it feels like? I said, it's a little cold. My hand's getting sweaty. It's bumpy. And what that is just to help you get out of the situation that your head is in.
Yeah, to get from the small apartment to the big house.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's embalming. Not there.
I think a very important metaphor that while we're talking about the show, that was brought up in this that makes a lot of sense is the river metaphor.
Yes, I didn't really mention the metaphor written down, but the river metaphor is he said he just started off asking what happens if you're stuck on one side of the river, your shit breaks down, you don't have a canoe, you can't find a way to cross the river, so you're stuck on this side, kind of feeling hopeless and shitty. And he eventually later on asks, because they really based off this metaphor a lot. They talked about it.
It was the basis of like the entire conversation.
Yeah. And at the very end, he kind of asks, like, what is this river? What is it? And she goes, it's reality. Mm-hmm. As simple as that.
Yeah, because a lot of how they set it up was like, if you're going through life and you're stuck or you're focused on just this little part, that would be you going off on the side, losing your canoe, and you're stuck in this, and you're being eaten by weasels and whatever.
Oh, bees and weasels.
Bees and weasels.
Yeah.
And it's like you're focused on just that, and you lose sense of the reality that is rushing past you in this river. It was so powerful.
Very powerful. Where is it? Okay, so not only does it is feeling your hand a thing, it's also looking around and listening. Another 3 steps, just like David Nichtern mentioned. Mm-hmm. So feeling your hands, looking, and listening. They take you to another consciousness from what you're going on, from what you're going through, actually.
Mm-hmm.
More later on in the episode, Duncan asks his mom, how do you stop the heartbreak of life or losing someone near and dear to you? How do you do that? And she simply cuts him off and just says, you cry.
Which I will interject here and say that at that moment,
that's where
you
we cry.
like it builds up, and you're just kind of going along, and you're listening, and you understand it's powerful. I don't know what it was in particular, but I will say something about how she said those words.
They were crying. That's what I wanted to tell you. They were actually crying. I know this because of a friend of mine, where he stops and cries, where she goes, you cry. She's crying. He's crying. And this is for an entire 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. They're just sobbing in each other's arms in the podcast.
Yeah.
And he cuts it to just a few minutes.
Yeah. When she says those words, you cry. You cry. I cry. You cry.
Yeah.
We cry.
We cry.
Yeah. It was very, very powerful. And at this point in the animation, they are planets.
At one point. At this point, they're eventually turning into planets. This is one thing I didn't write down. And they're talking about just not feeling heavy anymore. Just kind of letting go. Because everyone goes through it. Mm-hmm. Everyone goes through this loss, this pain. And I think what the mom was trying to say, but she was kind of full of emotion, is that's why you just got to be kind. Mm-hmm. Just be kind. You don't know what people are going through. They're literally, so many people in this world can be going through the same exact thing as you.
Well, at the core, everyone will have to face death and respond to it within their own way.
Yes.
So no matter who you meet, either they are living a life of distraction, so they don't have to think about it, or they're living in this reality that they were forced into by dealing with death recently, or they're, meditative sort of people who try to stay in reality. Those are really the three options. Mm-hmm. And you kind of have to understand that at the end of the day, there is that core of truth and reality. Yeah. Whether they're living a complete life of distraction or not, it's still there in everyone. Mm-hmm. Which is what I think she was getting at as well.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing I remember they talked about was the heartbreak. Mm-hmm. And another thing they kept talking about was love. And how love doesn't hurt. She's saying people got that definition wrong. Love isn't supposed to hurt you. It doesn't hurt. It hurts to open your heart, but love isn't supposed to hurt you.
Right.
But not supposed to. It doesn't hurt you. It just, certain situations cause this quote-unquote heartbreak.
Right, and I think...
I don't know if you noticed, too, the imagery was changing. His heart was changing when that was happening.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like...
I know, that killed me. That killed me. But it was very much, I lost my train of thought a little bit. It was very much interesting how they were talking about, opening your heart, being present is painful. That action is painful.
That's where episode 5 falls in. Literally everything falls in this episode.
Yeah.
It
ties it all together.
I just find that crazy that he was able to do that. It's awesome because all these people he has interviewed once before in his own podcast, and he just calls them all back. They do another podcast, break the fourth wall a fuckload. It's
art. It's art.
It's beautiful.
It is very much art.
Beautiful art. And I guess I could quickly say these. We can make it a 2-hour podcast.
Hey, before we started this podcast, we were talking about the timing of it, and we were like, yeah, we can fit it all in an hour. We're never going to make a 2-hour podcast. That's fine. Literally, second episode.
2 hours.
We're about to push 2 hours.
Yeah. I'm going to try and explain it in the best way possible. This part of this podcast, the ending, is me trying to explain what the fuck's going on in the animation. So, what actually goes down in the cartoon? one thing that I noticed in every single episode, Clancy brings back a pair of shoes. Mm-hmm. Every single episode. There's not one where he misses. Okay. And I think it's because he doesn't have enough money for shoes. And he's getting excited. The more he gets them, he goes, oh, yeah, thanks. You know, like, he just loses his shit over it. I already explained episode 1. He got the money from his sister and Earth, you know, number, whatever. What I find completely insane is the transfer of him going to Earth and how episode 8 even ends. It starts off that I almost just kind of just deflate as a balloon, because how do you even explain that?
The end? The ending?
Mm-hmm. Because now you know the basis of everything. Mm-hmm. And, you know, spoiler alert, cancel now, turn off now. I'm going to say it in 3, 2, 1. Clancy died. So...
Maybe.
We don't really know. We have no idea because of how it looks when he is getting transferred from his reality, quote, quote, to a simulated reality, quote, quote. That's where that theory comes in.
How it ends is his whole laboratory...
Explodes.
But
he gets sucked into it.
And he gets sucked in, and he doesn't know exactly where he is, and he starts talking to this guy, hey, do you want to be on my... Am I dead?
Yeah.
And the guy, you can go ahead and say it if you want.
I don't remember what he said.
He says, so he goes...
It's a real person. He took this audio clip from something.
Yeah, he says, it doesn't matter, you're here. Or something like that.
It should.
Along to that effect.
Yes.
Which was, to me, after we've talked about this, that just makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. And it's just so great because, to me, as we've talked about, the theme of this show is acceptance.
Yeah.
And also presence.
Yes.
Presence and acceptance, those are the two themes of the show. Mm-hmm. And at the very end, that guy is literally saying... Be present with me here right now and where you are at, and accept that it's okay.
Yep.
You don't know where you are on this journey, where you are on this river, if you're on the side, you don't know where the hell you are.
Yeah.
Be present and accept it.
The metaphor is you don't know where this train's going, because he was literally on a train with all the people that he had interviewed in each episode. This is the ending of episode 1. I mean 8. I know we're talking about 1 right now, but it's just, I had to say it because my brain was like,
I will quote a fantastic movie.
Do it.
You are waiting for a train that'll take you far away. You know where you hope this train will take you, but you can't know for sure.
Lovely. Where is that from?
Inception.
Lovely. Never seen it. Yeah, shoot me in the face.
Okay, alright. We are watching and live reacting to Inception. Check our Twitter. We will be live reacting to Inception
because we don't want to.
We'll be live tweeting.
Live tweeting it, yes. How about that?
Because that right there sums up this. It's the same metaphor because it's a literal thing that happens. Because it's about dreams and it's so good.
I can't even imagine.
Okay, so we will have to do that.
I'm so down for that.
Yes, he is literally on a train. You don't know where it's going.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so at the ending of episode 1, after he talks to Drew Pinsky, he is getting eaten by zombies. He then blows the horn, opens his third eye, and floats out of the earth. Earth explodes, and he's sent back unharmed. And he can feel everything that's happening to him. He can feel himself dying, but he doesn't die. Nothing's wrong with him. Mm-hmm. How? That's weird.
Isn't that how, like, on, what is it? DMT? I believe. Yes, on DMT.
That's the strongest.
Yeah, you have ego death, and we're in your hallucination, and in that you
bringing that in. They mentioned ego death in Midnight Gospel as well.
I've done a lot of research on on drugs and how it affects you and the different things that you can go through while you're on drugs. I don't like hallucinogenics anyway. I never want to take them.
Absolutely not.
That is not my thing. I can't even feel the inside of my hand. I do not want to go into another realm. Thank you very much. But ego death is a very, because you die. I've heard it explained. I've watched testimonials. I've watched people describe dying. They literally die.
Mm-hmm. And they wake up.
And then, and then the trip ends up being over at some point. But they have gone through that. They have gone through this other side that is just intense and crazy, and I never want to experience it.
It's, I know, I never, ever, no thanks. They say a DMT trip is only a few minutes, but it feels like you went through an entire lifetime.
Yeah.
That's why I would never touch it.
You.
No, gracias.
This guy once said that he was a broom the entire time, but it was the... I gotta show you that video. But it was the most enlightening trip he had ever had.
That's awesome.
As this broom. It was incredible. It was a great story.
I hope I'm not really me, and I hope I'm just a fucking broom. Like
the experience that he had as a broom was life-changing.
Amazing. I wish I was that. A fucking broom.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
A broom.
If
what
you want
do
to
you
be a
have?
dog, roof, you know?
No, exactly. So in episode 2, you see that Clancy doesn't seem to really take on responsibility. Now, sounds almost a 180 to who he is in this virtual reality, this simulation, because he's learning all these different things, but he's not taking them in. He's learning them, but he's not taking them in. Mm-hmm. The quote-unquote Pyromoth radio station he listens to talks about how people need to be careful downloading emoji packs because they contain hacks, viruses, and spoofs. Right after he hears that, he doesn't hear it because he then just downloads an emoji pack, which makes his simulator go completely haywire and says some shit. Do you hear the hoofed one in the forest, master? And he just simply unplugs and plugs him back in, and he's okay.
Yeah, that's how technology works.
That's how technology fucking works.
Just turn it off and turn it back on.
And I was like, oh my god.
Fine.
I already talked about Clancy's sister. I don't know why I wrote that. I don't understand what I meant in that. I said, talk about what happens to Clancy in this episode. Your theory as to why he did not die. Oh, okay. So, that episode's weird as hell. They completely cut him up into nothing. He literally dies in the simulator, but he's not dead. He's still talking. He has eyes and a mouth. And he's fine. The reason why is because when he floats down into the simulated Earth, we see it's a clown Earth. It's called clown whatevers. He picks out a fruit. He starts talking. That's when he then says the information about his sister, why he got the money, and he goes, I got a good deal on a used universe simulator, and I'm gonna interview a bunch of people, make a bunch of money, and I pay you back, and you can suck my fucking dick. That's what he said. He eats this fruit, and he sees these reindeer dogs, and all these babies being born from this fruit that he's actually eating, these clown babies. And then all of a sudden they guys start getting eaten, and it's a bloodbath. And he goes, oh my god, they're fucking babies, what are you doing? Like, holy shit! And he gets impaled by one of the reindeer dogs, and they get captured by these clown people and injected with the stuff called namastex. It makes them chill, and he goes, just friends in a truck. Just friends in a truck. And then he asks one of the reindeer dogs, can I interview you for my space cache? He goes, okay. You can talk? That's like my favorite part. But what happens is literally they're getting chopped up and grinded up into this meat, and they're still talking, still alive, because through this train process of them going, these clown people cut them open and take out those babies and put them into like these tubes. So I genuinely think the reason why he was still alive is because he asked Annie, the person he was interviewing, I have to go to the bathroom. Can you take me? Because he's impaled by her horns through his nipples.
Okay, I will say, the whole visual side of this show just loses me, man. I don't...
But it's the reason why he's still alive.
It's a fucking fever dream, man.
It really is.
I just... What the fuck?
Yeah. And that's literally the reason why he didn't die, is because of that. And they're literally getting eaten at the very end. And he blows his horn and he's back. Fine. Completely fine.
Why does him asking if he can go to the bathroom means he's not dying? I don't get
Because they didn't cut out that tiny clown baby he ate. And he makes it back to the house, his reality, throws up that baby and is like, oh shit, that thing's bad. And from episode 1, he brings back the dog Charlotte. I don't know if, because you saw.
Yeah, he's the one who got the bullet.
Yeah. The dog, that dog is a giant galaxy vacuum, and he sucked up the baby, and it was fine. It was gone. Baby was gone.
Okay. I feel like I'm high right now.
I'm high.
I'm not.
So in episode 3, in this episode, you see a bunch of colors in the air. This is very important. With where Clancy lives with things stuck in it. There is an electrical fence around it saying, don't go in there, it's dangerous, important for later. So Clancy gets on his computer, starts listening to voicemails. One was his sister, who's pissed and he just deletes it. The second is Carl Tranche from Tranche Videos, and he is asking for him to return the rentals. If not, he's gonna fucking kill him. That's what he said. Deletes it because, again, he doesn't fucking care about anything. He now has, from one subscriber, he had one subscriber in the first episode, he now has 18. And he hit a new person subscribed named Daniel Hoops. That's who you saw getting spanked in episode 8.
Anyone who is still currently listening to the podcast, I really hope you have seen this.
So you understand?
Yeah, because I have seen that one episode and I'm still like, what? Like, I wish that we had the camera on so you see my face.
Yeah, because you were sad and all of a sudden it happened, you're like, what? Like, what the fuck?
5% battery.
Ooh, okay. Daniel Hoops is his new subscriber, and he's going through an ice cream drought. So in the middle, I don't know what that means, in an ice cream drought, and he can see Clancy through his screen and can see his house, and he's like looking through like a window.
Uh-huh.
It's really weird. I don't know why. It just really kind of creeped me out. And he goes, I'm gonna do that for you, Daniel. I'm gonna get you some fucking ice cream. And that's the episode that he talked about magic and meditation. They really don't. This is like, I'm talking about 2 different shows here.
Yeah. Yeah. There's the audio side of this show, which makes a lot of sense to me and I really appreciate. I really understand and I care about it a lot. I also enjoy the visuals of the last episode. However, there is the entire visual show that just I don't understand and cannot get behind. I just don't get it.
Cannot grasp. He does end up going through that podcast, and he finds a unicorn that spits out ice cream, and he gives it to him. Mm-hmm. Then he gets in trouble by his wizard dad. And in the next episode, going on to episode 4, Clancy wakes up, falls into his black hole dog, and sees some random shit. Genuinely don't know. I don't understand why that happens. It just happens. Then he gets sucked back out. Oh, okay. He doesn't... Okay, so Daniel Hoops is on there. He goes, I can't watch you anymore. My dad's crazy. My dad's a tart baker. My dad wants to kill you. That's like everything he's saying. And he's like, yeah, I can't watch you anymore, but thank you for these shirts. Yeah. Oh, and so he then goes to... He was trying to find a nice calming earth to go to, because shit keeps happening to him in the cartoon. Just random shit. Keeps dying. So his computer's like, I'm going to send you to Margaritaville. They drink Namastex. And for some reason it's mentioned again. So I don't know what that is, the Namastex. I want to dig into that more, but that'll be for something else.
At least first impression, that ties in the first episode with like drugs and stuff. Yeah. I feel like that's the calming
Friends in a trunk?
Namaste. Like, you know, it's a play on Namaste. It's a play on tranquility and substances aid in that.
Yeah.
Because...
Oh, okay. I love how you put that. Substance aid, because the Namastex is considered an alcohol on that drink. They called it Margarita Planet.
I mean, that's why, you know, for some people, hallucinogens and weed and different things like that help on this journey of acceptance, and that's why I feel like the first episode was in there, because the first episode, seems kind of random, just talking about drugs and stuff, when throughout all of this, they're talking about acceptance and presence and all that. But it makes a lot of sense because I do believe that they are pushing a sense of, do kind of what you gotta do in order to reach this place that he has reached. He's kind of explaining his way through this.
Yes. So, I didn't mention this before. I keep forgetting to mention it. Every time Clancy leaves an Earth, that Earth gets destroyed. It blows up in some way. I don't know why. I think it's because he's there and he's not supposed to be, personally.
So then his Earth gets exploded in the end. It's Inception.
Inception. But every time he leaves, he takes a pair of shoes and someone follows. Charlotte, the unicorn, and a boat full of cats. I'm sorry. This is important, though. The ship full of cats. The ship full of cats is in the space of the simulator, not in his realm. Mm-hmm. So as he's getting shot out to this Margaritaville, those cats hit him, and he gets sent to this shitty, evil planet that has... horrible, scary, and it looks like it has Saturn's rings, but when you get close to it, this is where it kind of fucked my brain up. All the rings is made out of demons.
Okay.
Complete, full-on demons. I was like, whoa. He leaves the planet and almost died again because the whole planet, again, explodes because the demons are engulfing it.
Mm-hmm.
And they literally they try to grab him as he blows his horn. And he goes, whatever. And I'm trying to leave. This is what I was laughing at earlier.
Yeah.
His character is meant to get pleasure and ecstasy from anything. That the reason why his computer made that is so he can finally have a good time. So since he almost died, his character goes through the ecstasy of death. Because he almost died. He literally almost died. So he comes back, not as that character anymore, but he's fucked up. He's like drunk. He's slurring his words. He goes, "What the fuck, computer? I could have died." And he goes, "Yeah, you enjoyed it, right?" And he goes, "Don't fucking do it again."
I'll fucking do it again.
He's like, "Don't do it again."
The demons told me to.
That's what he's gonna say. He goes, Clancy did not know you could die in the simulator because every time he was able to make it back just in time. Episode 5, he wakes up with throw up in his mouth. That's Jason Love.
Yep.
That's the one. Yes. So, like I said, it brings back some sort of thing from every episode. In episode 4, he brought back this rose that can bring people back to life or heal them, which is cool.
It's cool.
It's alright, yeah. As Clancy is scrolling through the Earths, he falls upon this one that's far kind of down the playlist, I guess you can say, quote unquote. And he goes, "Oh, you weren't supposed to see that. This is a soul prison for wayward simulated beings, a tower of malfunctioning sims, so enraged with existential dread that they've ripped their tongues off. They ripped their own tongues off." Clancy gets sent because he really wants to go. Then it stops to load the esoteric trap. Can you look that up? Can I look up that word? In this one, you see every single person that Clancy interviewed. What does it mean?
It means intended for or likely to be understood by only a small number of people with a specialized knowledge or interest.
That's a fucking middle finger.
He got burned.
That's a middle finger.
Wow.
I guess that makes sense because everything that goes on in that episode, you literally can't understand it unless you watch it.
So, literally, you know how I've been saying this whole time, I don't understand all this stuff, how we've been talking this whole time about this, they literally, I bet they were hoping that you looked this up, and you literally just got burned. Like, that is a burn within a burn, and they broke the fourth wall. They just broke the fourth wall.
Oh yeah, no, he did, because he even they break the fourth wall multiple times.
No, I just mean right now.
Right there, yeah.
Right now, in this moment, he just broke the fourth wall because wow, we just got dunked on.
Yeah, no, seriously. And basically in that one, like I said, just watch episode 5. It's so hard to even talk in depth about.
Just watch episode 8.
Yeah, 8's really good too. Now we gotta go to my phone for episode 6 notes. Very fast. In this episode, Clancy gets a call from his sister, accidentally picks it up and pretends to be a voicemail. She talks about how much she misses him and doesn't want the money anymore. She doesn't care about it. Instead, he just gets angry, says, message box full, not received, whatever. Also, Clancy's aloofness to his simulator, which is fixing to wobble, very important term. Anyway, simulator is begging for him to put lantern oil in the simulator, but Clancy is not paying attention because he just wants to go into an Earth that's not working. He instead gets a floating pie to send to his neighbors. It just shows that he's just completely aloof to the whole situation. Eventually, his simulator is wigging out hard. It's taking out pies that want to get eaten. They're going like, eat me, eat me. Clancy calls someone to take care of his simulator. Clancy had no idea what the fuck the simulator was supposed to do, what was wrong with it. The guy goes in there. The guy goes in there, dies, and comes back to life because he fell by the rose, and it brought him back to life. And he goes, woo wee, your simulator's got a something. He just says all this shit, and he goes, and she is fixing to wobble. That's why wobble is a big term. They then try to get him some oil. The guy dies in a way, but is alive still.
Sure.
Yeah, he's alive and stuck in the wobble, which I mentioned earlier. He is stuck in those colorful wobbles. Rhonda. Oh, you didn't watch cartoons. Sad face. Yeah, and after everything gets fixed and finally he gets the oil inside the simulator, Clancy's so angry and built up from that situation, he's just blowing up on everybody. That's when he gets sent to go see David. And he comes back. He's enlightened.
Yeah.
He's good.
Yeah.
But boring as fuck. That's where it goes into episode 7. He turns into this white blob. He doesn't give a fuck about anything. He's like, I'm enlightened now. And then he goes, hey, Master, do you want to see this? And he goes, I don't think you heard, but I'm enlightened now! He just does some random shit like that. Because he received the message wrong. Meeting death made him forgive himself on bad things he's done and couldn't forgive himself from before. Mm-hmm. Which I didn't get into before because it was all in the animation. You don't see that, or you don't hear that, you see it. Right. He asks, where are all these mirrors? She goes, it's parts of yourselves that you don't like. And you have to accept them. And he just gives them a thumbs up, and they're all happy, and they're gone. So I thought that was pretty cool. And
that is very interesting.
He comes back, and he starts singing, it's better to be you than out of tune. He starts singing that.
Wow.
And I was like, what? That's so good to see. That's so good to hear. Mm-hmm. I wanna download, like, the playlist of this. And then we're going into episode 8. The last one. Clancy is starting to merge with the simulator, but is stopped when he sticks his head into it, walks into the house, quote unquote. It's like a mansion, mm-hmm. and there's a door. Then he is sent to those planets. When he makes it to that door, he hears a knock, and he's like, what the hell? That's his mom. And then he goes on to a very emotional journey with her. Flashback to his reality, Daniel Hoop's dad is making the simulator malfunction while Clancy is in it because he's a very powerful man and wants to kill him for illegally giving his son ice cream. Clancy and Charlotte get sucked into the simulator after he has everything with his mom, and then it explodes, creating more wobbles. Yeah. It's kind of letting us know that Clancy might be dead. We don't...
For real.
We don't know.
For real this time.
Right. We don't know because... Is the simulator real? What the fuck are their wobbles? Why is his Earth like that?
Yeah.
Like, it's so many different questions that are so hard to answer, which I don't even think anyone has answers for because of how elaborate.
Right, yeah. I think that part of the point is that, you can't understand reality completely. You can't explain. It doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. It's just a bunch of random mess.
Yep.
A bunch of wobbles.
Wobbles.
But, you might have a bunch of questions at the end. It might not make sense, but at the end of the day, be here and accept,
mm-hmm. Yep. And that is that. So that was the Midnight Gospel episode. It went from It totally seems like white and black. But if you really want to try and get into the theory of the cartoon, I would suggest looking up some videos because it's hard to try and figure it the fuck out yourself.
Or just listen to it and don't watch it.
They do cut off and talk about.
Right, it's not going to make a lot of sense, but you would get the overall theme of it. It really just depends on what you're going for.
Yeah.
You know, the kind of experience you want to have or what would make sense to you.
I wanted to understand both.
Right.
It's still pretty hard. I'm still wrapping my head around what the fuck it might be.
Yeah, it's definitely very interesting. I definitely really appreciate the imagery, the point. I appreciate the point that it's making throughout every single episode.
Oh, yeah.
And overall.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
All right, so that was the podcast for Midnight Gospel.
Long one.
Very long one.
Might be our longest one.
Oh, come on. You know that we're going to end up talking. For The Last of Us, when we do The Last of Us episode...
that one's going to be probably two-parter.
Probably.
First one and then the second one.
But join us next week. Not sure exactly what we're going to do, but...
it might be The Last of Us.
Might be The Last of Us. Might be something totally different. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram and all that. We have those now.
Yes, they're all going to be in the description or on our YouTube channel because we now have a YouTube channel as well.
We do.
A lot more prepared in this episode than we did the last.
Yes, and we are pushing for Spotify. Let's hope we get there.
Cross our fingers.
Yes.
I don't remember how we did the art.
I don't remember how we did it either. We've been going for a while, but just remember,
stay curiously
factual.
Have a good
Later.
day.